Hello and welcome to my channel youtubeshaman.com, and this is our retrospective. It's Dan's idea to create this film. I think it's a lovely idea. So we're walking along this path which is very close to my heart, and it's actually where one of the very first films was ever made, and we're going to take you through all the different signature tunes throughout the years. And the theme of this series of films is change. We're actually in change as you're watching this, as it's come out, and you'll get to see a whole wide spectrum of the different facets which interest me, which I wish to share with people. And I'd like you to know a lot of the films actually are the result of people asking me questions, so we really do like to respond to questions we get. And as Russell Brand likes to say, subscribe here. Subscribe here. So thank you very much, and off we go on our journey. What I want to explain to you is that many of these really difficult health problems that people experience are actually caused by other people misusing the power of the word. So everyone who can speak has the ability to use the word, and what most people don't know is that's a very great power. So what I'm actually saying is something very revolutionary. All human beings are magicians, and the difference between a black magician and a white magician is a black magician will use the power of their word to hurt other people. If on the other hand people come out and cut the hazel rods when they reach the right size, then that gives the plant vigour and life, and as it's cut, it gives it desire to keep on growing. And the funny thing about hazel is if you keep on cutting it, it will last for 2,000 years. So the astral body starts to break down into pieces. Now, what happens is if a piece of etheric body and a piece of astral body that have broken off from the disintegrating spiritual being, if they get together, what they can then do is they can form an entity. What is the golden part of the procedure? It's the actual universal soul retrieval. It's the return of all lost soul parts to that human being in one session. All traumas in all lifetimes, one go. With about 14 other people. And what was interesting, listening to each person speak, they all had exactly the same experience. They all felt they didn't really belong here. They all felt this wasn't their home. Now that's nothing to be sad about actually. All they were doing is they were saying that they'd actually started to wake up to how things really are. So the conventional wisdom would say don't resist anything, but what I'm suggesting to you is that there's a great power in the rubber band effect, which is that the more you have this resistance going on, when you finally let go of the resistance, just like the rubber band, off it goes to the other side of the room, it smacks against the wall.
So, 4 things. First, not to complain anymore, because complaining stops all the energy, blocks us to have positive energy to doing something positive.
Yes.
You know? Second, do not to pretend too much from others. So it will be always surprised what is coming, you know. Yes. And the third thing was to have patience. And this patience is really essential. This patience is so important.
Yes.
And the fourth thing was to have confidence in the universal.
Confidence in the universe.
In the universe.
Yeah, confidence in the universe.
And so, what then happened? It was amazing. It was a miracle, you know. Everything came to me. I can't tell you. There are thousands of different examples.
So every single living being, whether it's something as simple as a virus or something as complex as a human being, actually contains DNA. and the DNA contains the codes which are the mechanisms for that life's creation. And it can be very frustrating to live an entire lifetime getting distracted and not actually do what you're here to do. You will feel touched, moved and inspired if you're living your soul's purpose. You'll have an inner sense of knowing that every day you're making steps in the right direction, because you're not living anybody else's life, you're living your life. That's what soul's purpose reading is to do. So what am I doing when I'm doing this breathing technique? What I'm doing is I'm slowing down my breathing rate quite drastically, and in normal state of awakeness you might find that you're doing 12 or 15 or even more breaths per minute. And that's it. It's a very simple form of pranayama breathing. Now let's go into the detail about why this is so good. First of all, because you're breathing from the belly, this means the parts of your lungs which normally don't get any air going in and out actually are fully utilised. It's extremely good for the lungs to do this. It means that you get far more oxygen in with each breath, and it means you detox the carbon dioxide much more effectively with each breath as well. And the first thing I want to explain to you is if I contrast it with this tobacco, this one has got 18 times as much nicotine as this one. Now that would cause all the health conscious people to think, oh my goodness me, therefore this must be 18 times worse. But here's the rub. This doesn't contain any additives at all. There are no toxins put in this to actually poison the individual who smokes it. This is a substance which is really pure. It's just a plant wrapped up in white paper. There's a polytunnel which has been built on this site, and this is a building that one of the community that I was a part of built themselves. When we started, we began by living in geodesic domes and yurts, and after some years there was this impulse to live more permanently, and this is the home that the married couple and their 2 children created for themselves. All the wood is locally sourced within 10 miles. It's a living roof, turf roof, beautifully designed. And there's 2 levels, so it's a kitchen and a living room downstairs. One small wood burning stove heats the whole structure because it's so well insulated, and then there's the 2 bedrooms on the top floor. I surrender all tension in my abdomen. Indeed it is so. I surrender all tension in my lower back. Let go, let go, let go. I surrender all tension in my spine, moving all the way from my lower back, all the way up to the top of my back.
And I was told it's mathematically perfect when the information was put into my head. The little dots have been joined together, lots of synchronicities have happened to show us that we're on the right path. We feel something really great is going to unfold because we've been put together. Our wedding was actually spectacular. I danced and created energy in the octagon. There were crystals and flowers, music, it was beautiful. Even the way that my dress came about, I saw a dress on the internet, it was absolutely beautiful. The chances of me getting that dress were near impossible.
Now, understanding does not excuse, it does not pardon. On the contrary, it does exactly the opposite. It points the way and shows it's high time to step into behaviour about which you can feel decent in yourself. And then you reach the tipping point. And the tipping point is that the amount of energy that the entity is drawing off from the host is suddenly greater than the amount of energy the host is able to draw from food and sunlight and whatever else the host is using to draw their energy source from. That's when the client starts to experience considerable difficulties. What he'd written, had a little chat, and I sent him an email back. And when he received that email back, that was sufficient to catalyse the entire activation process for him. Which brings me to the activation process, because these days permission for a USR by you, the client, is given in 2 points. Point number 1 is when you book, and point number 2 is when you activate. So everyone these days gets the opportunity to use the activation key at the end of the report, and therefore that's the second permission they give. The Tao on the dark side of the card is Capricorn. This is a Jupiter in Capricorn. The gifts of practicality, the gifts of ambition, the gifts of getting yourself organised and together and making a physical, financial and material success of your life. That's what this time is all about. It's a time for transformation, a time for new beginnings. And it's just continuing to expand, to occupy the entire immediate locality and spreading out into your wider locality, out into your province or region, out into the nation state in which you are living, out into the continent to which you are a part of, and out until the entire world is completely engulfed by the green Torus. The whole world is engulfed in the green Torus. Will you be true to who you are? The whale, which was given to me by someone with whom I share a lot of love. Over and there's a little bulb with some lavender that was given to me. That's a rattle I use on my retreats. All sorts of things on there. Something that makes my house a bit different from most is I don't have any tables. Don't tend to make use of them. Try it either way. You can try it either breathing out through the nose or breathing out through the mouth. Try it both ways. But the key thing is no holding on the in-breath, no holding on the out-breath. What I'm finding about it is the more I get into this one, is the greater I manage to get my lung capacity through taking a really slow time to breathe in and breathe out. So this is the Holy Well of Tara. Wow, serious amount of containerage. It must be the most well-loved spring I've been to for a very long time. I can really sense it. So I've just filled my glass. Time for the first sip. He is none of those things. He is infinitely greater and infinitely more magical and infinitely more wonderful, and in fact he is a god in the making. And he suddenly wakes up, the rational mind trance dissolves completely. He loses all sense of space and time. He loses all sense of form. There is no form. I'm going to show you the fruit selection next. One of my favourite parts about this place is there's an incredibly good selection of apples, including a selection of English apples, which is very rare in most shops these days. This that however little of the pie is left, it simply expands and expands and expands and becomes bigger and bigger up until the point that the person's higher self is happy with. So people end up with a much larger pie than what they start with. That's the way I would describe that particular process, the aging process with the DNA. I'm now in what we call the merry month of May in England, and this is perhaps the most exquisite year for gorse that I've ever seen, that I can ever remember, because you can see this plant is completely covered in blooms all over, and such beautiful blooms they are too. We all experience and explore what it is to be human in our own individual way, and so we have infinite diversity in infinite combinations, and this is what we've chosen to do, and to embrace the limitation of the physical form. We are all God who's chosen to forget that we are God. So in other words, we are God pretending to be not God. And on the Nature's Medicine retreats, all the food is very carefully choreographed to give you the very best results. So when you're doing your plant diet, it really is as simple as this. You want to be focusing on eating plants as fresh as possible for the duration.
We are both from Slovakia.
Yes.
So we grow up with the tea culture. In Slovakia, we grow up with the fruit teas and herbal teas and black teas as well.
Okay.
But then in the teenage years, we are not allowed to going into the pubs. So we have tea houses like this place with no food, just the teas.
That tells you, like, remove this bag and you'll feel better if you're putting the bag down for a bit and take a break and go, because then you put everything down on the floor and you can get a proper breathing out. But we carrying all these things, we would never put it down. Reason why, everything that belongs to us is inside this bag. So we worry that actually somebody will come and steal this bag while I put it down, or somebody will take something from it.
Yeah.
But therefore we just keep carrying it with heaviness, and it's so heavy, and you keep carrying it because you think, oh, somebody else will come and steal it while I'm not there. So life is like that. You got to time to time you got to put it down and then pick it up when you're ready again. But I'm saying, let go of things and learn to let go of it. If you don't practice to let go, then even while you're actually leaving this earth.
And the greatest mistake you could possibly make is to actually identify with those thoughts and to think that they're yours and to think that they are your own, because they're not. And this is a huge relief when you realize the fact. So, human being, I mentioned this many times on the retreat, 3 centers: head, heart and gut. Now, in the West, we have allowed ourselves to be dominated by the head, and thoughts, the mind tends to take charge over the other centers, which is perhaps the greatest mistake, or one of the greatest mistakes that people make in the West. It's very important to tune into your heart, which is your true center, and also to be aware of your gut instincts and your gut feelings. These are very helpful. And the center, there is a community building, and the space is marked out by the circle of trees which are around it, and you can notice that there are entryways into each of the petals of the flower of life. So that's what we've got. We've literally got a shape, the circle, and the circle is consisting of trees, which provides its own integrity. It gives the space its boundary, if you like, and within those boundaries there are these 6 petals. when you're in a state of fear, just remember how that feels. Be aware of how that feels. Times in your life when you've been in fear, how that feels. And then remember the state of love and how that feels. There's no contest, is there? One is so much more obviously desirable than the other. But also it's very warming. It's a nice warming spice. I've added the cinnamon. So now all the dry ingredients are in. I'm going to put it back on the heat. Let it warm up again, so I've just cooled it down by putting all those ingredients in. And the next thing is going to be the honey and the first teaspoon of the vanilla extract. So one of the things about this is there's such innovation and creativity in terms of the way that people build using the very barest minimum of materials. And bearing in mind the vast majority of people are sleeping an unbelievably large number of people to a tiny inadequate tent. That's the reality of living here.